So, there's a lot of things that people like to throw at Biden, like to try to call out his job that he's done as a president, claiming he hasn't done as well as, others that would say that others would say he's done. I don't know why I can't speak right now. And one of those things has been high prices for anything, really, from gas to food to plane tickets or concert tickets or literally anything, cars, everything, housing, anything you can think of. If the price is high on it, higher than what people are used to or higher than they'd like, it's gotten thrown at Biden as an attack on his economic policy. Now, you could look at Biden's actual, economic policy and the effect it's had on the economy, which has been astronomically positive, but they don't care about that. They just kind of need someone to blame. There needs to be a scapegoat. And I've always thought that, Biden needs to do something loud and proud that involves dropping prices for something that people like. Like a very clear message that shows the American people that Biden is dropping prices. Now, can you think of something that's not necessarily a super vital thing to survive, that is regularly overpriced even when the economy is good, to a point where you could actually argue it's criminal, to a point where nobody likes it, nobody involved except the people doing it like it? Ticket selling platforms such as Ticketmaster and, don't forget, SeatGeek. Hilariously, I learned about this story from a recent episode of Philip DeFranco's show where he talked about this story, and he was talking about this story and how Ticketmaster is getting into trouble with the DOJ, and I was like, huh, okay, cool. And then his sponsorship was a SeatGeek sponsorship. And at no point does he acknowledge the fact that SeatGeek does the same thing that Ticketmaster does, or even question if, he doesn't acknowledge it at all. So Philip DeFranco talks about this story, but only refers to Ticketmaster getting gone after by the DOJ, but they're also going after the company he was sponsored by in that very video. I've got some hang-ups about Philip DeFranco. I think he's a cool guy. I tune into a few of his shows, but man, there's some questionable stuff, like that, for example. I could tell some random stories that kind of upset me about Philly D, but I think overall he's a chill guy. I don't really have anything out for him or anything like that. There's some cringe moments he's had that upset me, because otherwise I'd just have nothing to really complain about, to be honest. Anyway, the DOJ has been discussing an antitrust lawsuit against Ticketmaster's parent company, Live Nation. Now, everybody is on board with this, except for obviously Live Nation and Ticketmaster and SeatGeek and these other companies. Nobody likes the, effectively what is scalping that these companies do. They overprice these tickets. They can be from everything from venues to concerts to parades to, any event that sells tickets. You can find them being sold there, and they are massively overpriced. Apparently, it's so bad that it's illegal, or at least Biden's not going to put up with it anymore. I'm not going to lie, this is actually a really good way to get Taylor Swift on board with another Biden endorsement for 2024, because Taylor Swift is notably been one of the biggest people calling out Ticketmaster. So this might actually get Taylor Swift on board with a loud, outspoken Biden endorsement for this election.
Act. In recent years, Live Nation Ticketmaster's exorbitant fees and technological failures have been criticized by fans and artists alike. But we are not here today because Live Nation Ticketmaster's conduct is inconvenient or frustrating. We are here because, as we allege, that conduct is anti-competitive and...
Hold on a second. Gonna boost the volume. It's a little quiet for me.
And illegal. Our complaint makes clear what happens when a monopolist dedicates its resources to entrenching...
Biden's setting a precedent of having his administration go after big monopolies in our market is huge, by the way. For all we know, in Biden term 2, we could get Biden's DOJ is now investigating every ISP in the country and dismantling the monopoly. Imagine if, because of another 4 years of Biden, you're literally able to choose which ISP you want, no matter where you live in the country. No more of that, dividing up different areas, yeah, we don't fuck with the territories, that whole territory situation that the ISPs have agreed to with each other is such fucking bullshit. It's literally what the WWE used to be back in, the fucking 70s and 80s. I'm not joking. Like, and before that, it was like the mob. Good fucking God. I hope so. There are a lot of places where there's only one ISP. Yeah. It's a massive monopoly.
Its monopoly power and insulating itself from competition rather than investing in better products and services. We allege that Live Nation has illegally monopolized markets across the live concert industry in the United States for far too long. It is time to break it up.
Let's go.
Live Nation Ticketmaster has made itself ubiquitous in the live entertainment industry. It controls at least 80% of primary ticketing at major concert venues. It directly manages...
Jesus Christ, no wonder we're going after Ticketmaster. 80% of ticketing venue, ticket sales for venues are from Ticketmaster. So I'm guessing as Ticketmaster just buys up all the tickets before anyone else possibly can, because they've got the infrastructure and money to do so, and then resells them marked up substantially. Just like pretty much a mass scalping thing. I assume like people sell them to them as well. Like people will sell, like you can sell your tickets to Ticketmaster and then they'll sell them at a higher price. Yeah, that is what they do. And they probably do both. Like you can sell your tickets to Ticketmaster and they'll resell them at a higher price than you bought them for.
More than 400 artists and controls more than 60% of concert promotions across the country. And it owns or controls more than 60% of large amphitheaters in the United States. We allege that to sustain this dominance, Live Nation relies on unlawful, anti-competitive conduct to exercise its monopolistic control over the live events industry in the United States and over the fans, artists, independent promoters, and venues that power the industry. The result is that fans pay more in fees, artists have fewer opportunities to play concerts, smaller promoters get squeezed out, and venues have fewer real choices for ticketing services. As detailed in our complaint, Live Nation Ticketmaster locks out competition in ticketing through the use of long-term, exclusive ticketing contracts with venues that can last over a decade, as well as by
They literally, yep, that's what I thought. They set up a contract, so they have reserved the tickets. There's not even a race to get the tickets before Ticketmaster's, like, I don't know, ticket buying bots could. They reserved the tickets contractually, a decade in advance. That's actually insane. No, that's the most uncompetitive, like, monopolistic thing ever. Yeah, it needs to be shut down. No wonder people fucking hate Ticketmaster. The artists, the consumers, everyone but Ticketmaster hates Ticketmaster. A decade, yes. Apparently, you can set that up a decade in advance. I mean, I guess.
Acquiring venues themselves.
Well, it's the venues. They set up a contract with a venue, like a decade-long contract with a venue. So the venue may have tons of different shows and events, but like, it's just, the venue's always the venue, but there will be different things there, and they get a contract with that venue. So you could have any given number of artists performing there or events happening there. Whatever tickets are being sold at any given time over the period the contract lasts, Ticketmaster has the rights to those tickets and gets to sell them.
With exclusive agreements that cover more than 70% of concert ticket sales at major concert venues across the country.
The 70s to 90s was the rise of contracting? Actually, they're the 2000s? Huh.
Ticketmaster can impose a seemingly endless list of fees on fans. Those include ticketing fees, service fees, convenience fees, platinum fees.
Notice how none of these things mean anything. They're just made-up words that they came up with to, like, have an excuse to add extra numbers to the price. Like, a convenience fee. Like, okay. A platinum fee. What else was it? A service fee. The fuck is the service fee supposed to be? What is the difference between the convenience fee and the service fee? Why can't they just be one fee combined, even the same amount? You know, like they're trying to trick you into thinking you're paying for so many different services with buzzwords that mean nothing. That's a lot of PR, by the way. A lot of like public representation for companies to like consumers is fluffing up as much your product or what you're selling as much as possible with fake meat on the bone to convince people they're getting more than they're paying for. The more you can trick people into thinking they're getting more than they're paying for, the better. That's what capitalism's all about.
Price master fees, per order fees, handling fees, and payment processing fees, among others. For fans in the United States, this illegal...
I love how they charge you payment processing fees when whatever payment processor you're using already charges you payment processing fees on like so it's like they're just charging you for a thing that costs them no money but already costs you money before you even give them any money because your payment processor is the one that takes payment processing fees from you, like always by default when you pay for things.
Conduct means higher prices. In other countries, where venues are not bound by Ticketmaster's exclusive ticketing contracts, venues often use multiple ticketing companies for the same event, and fans see lower fees and more innovative ticketing products as a result. We also allege that Live Nation Ticketmaster uses these long-term ticketing agreements with venues and its control over those venues to unlawfully pressure artists into agreeing to use its promotion services. In fact, Live Nation often sacrifices profits it could earn as a venue owner by letting its venues sit empty, rather than opening them to artists who do not use Live Nation promotion services, even during peak concert season.
It's literally they make more money off of having empty seats in a concert venue than filling them thing. It's like the same shit as like the housing market. Good God. Capitalism is a broken system when not accounted for by a good administration that knows how to do stuff like this and investigate and crack down on stuff like this.
Live Nation has not only deployed anti-competitive tactics to coerce artists and venues into using its services and to charge fans excessive fees, it has also worked strategically and illegally to eliminate the threat of potential rivals from emerging across any of its businesses. As detailed in our complaint, Live Nation suffocates its competition, promoters and venues, to threats and retaliation, to agreements with rivals designed to neutralize them. This has included acquiring or co-opting key independent promoters, even when the economics of a particular deal did not make sense for Live Nation's promotions business. For example, as recounted in our complaint, Live Nation acquired a controlling stake in AC Entertainment, an independent promoter in Tennessee. Live Nation's chief strategy officer assured executives that even though, quote, the numbers are not super exciting and this feels like more of a defensive move, the acquisition helped, quote, grow our moat in the Nashville market.
God, they're so fucking like what I loved about the Fallout show is how that that meeting between all of the higher ups of all the companies in Fallout when they have their evil corporate meeting, like that's low-key kind of realistic. That's how these fucking people talk. Lives of like countless people's lives, money, and like their well-being, etc. to a lot of these like higher ups at these massive corporations like Ticketmaster or Live Nation. It's like they don't care. They are actually like soulless husks sitting at a table, like moving around pieces, trying to figure out how to make themselves even a tiny sliver of a percent more money on their bottom line in this next quarter.
When faced with another potential competitor to its promotions business, Live Nation took action to ensure that the competitor would not threaten its dominance in the live music industry. Live Nation initially categorized that competitor, the venue operator Oakview Group, as one of its, quote, biggest competitor threats. Over time, however, Oakview and Live Nation morphed from competitors into partners. As detailed in our complaint,
they either consume each other or they agree to like set up a territory type thing. It's the same thing the ISPs did. Sometimes they merge or buy each other out. Sometimes they just agree not to trample on each other's turf. To give you a good example of how ISPs do this, when I was a kid, the biggest ISP, like the best and biggest ISP you could get in Florida, or at least the area of Florida I lived in, was Bright House. Any Floridians in chat know what I'm talking about? I'm sure it was available in other places, but Bright House was the ISP to get. However, the other big ISP that you would occasionally find was Verizon. They did not fuck with each other's territories. They like broke up parts of Florida into specific territories where they would not try to sell to or provide service to people in each other's territories. That there was like maps and everything. Like there was instructions on where to do all that stuff. And so eventually, though, Bright House was bought by Time Warner Cable. I believe it's now known as Spectrum. And I don't know if they have Spectrum here in Seattle. I know they had Spectrum in California. They had it in Palm Springs, and they had it in Florida, obviously. So yeah, they either consume each other and like become, or well, one consumes the other, and it's like a Gario or something, and it just becomes part of what, like, the monopoly, or they start agreeing to not compete with each other, so there's no competition, which means there's effectively a monopoly. The competition is what's best for the consumer, and it's these guys' job to step in when competition stops happening, because that is never good, ever, for the American people.
Nation executives repeatedly scolded Oakview for trying.
Zan, do you remember when the UFC stadium went from being Bright House Stadium to Spectrum Stadium? I don't, but I guess that's a good example, or a good thing to remind people of what I'm talking about here.
To compete. In one instance in 2016, Live Nation
UCF,
CEO
not
warned
UFC,
Oakview
okay.
that competition would only lead to artists demanding more compensation. The Live Nation CEO emailed Oakview writing, quote, "Let's make sure we don't let them now start playing us off," referring to a prominent artist agency. Oakview backed down. In a similar instance in 2022, Live Nation CEO scolded Oakview's CEO, quote, "Who would be so stupid to do this and play into the artist agent's arms," close quote. Oakview again backed down. Quote, "We have never promoted without you, won't," said its CEO, and later added, quote, "I never want to be
They
competitors."
sound like an abusive
close quote.
ex.
We also allege that Live Nation has repeatedly wielded its powers to keep its rivals from expanding in the U.S. concert promotions market through threats and retaliation. In 2021, Live Nation threatened to retaliate against private equity firm Silver Lake unless one of the latter's portfolio companies, TEG, stopped competing with Live Nation for artist promotion contracts in the United States. Live Nation CEO told Silver Lake that he, quote, "failed to understand why Silver Lake, quote, continued to invest in a business that competes with Live Nation," close quote.
They literally have, like, threatening convos behind the scenes with, like, why are we competing? Come on, let's just work together. No more competition. That is always bad for the American people, always bad for the consumer. I really hope this ends up being a popular move for Biden's administration. I really, really do. I think there was a really concise breakdown by Reuters, which Reuters is not fantastic, to be clear. In fact, Reuters is, I think, one of the most funded by oil companies, media outlets out there. Or not Reuters, no, it's NPR, not Reuters. I think Reuters is one of them, but not as funded by big oil as NPR is, apparently. Yeah. I can't see why it wouldn't be popular, Zan. Well, it's a matter of whether or not people connect this to Biden having done a good thing, right? Like, it's a question of a people's decision that they already hate Biden. Like, I feel like people's hatred for Biden is like people's hatred for Rings of Power. They decided they were going to hate it the second it was announced, as I did too, to be fair. But unlike me, who had a bit of an open mind, was willing to give it a shot when it was finally here, and, you know, you could make your own decision, which I did with Biden as well. You know, I was expecting to hate Biden. I was expecting him to suck and to spend the entire administration shitting on him. Then it turned out he was actually pretty fucking good, like, surprised me at every turn and blew my expectations out of the water. Same thing for Rings of Power. It's funny how comparable they are. And yet, a lot of people just decided they hate Biden a long time ago, and it doesn't matter how good of a job Biden does, they'll find a way to frame even the coolest thing Biden does as something bad. I'm sure there'll be people out there saying, why is Biden focusing on this right now when people are dying in Palestine? It's like, well, he can do two things at once. It's like, yeah. What did happen to NPR? I remember when people talked about it, but that was a long time ago. Yeah, NPR got exposed like a while ago as being heavily funded by big oil.
If you've ever bought concert tickets, you've probably felt that frustration at checkout when suddenly the extra fees appear. You're not alone.
One of the major categories of junk fees are ones that companies charge right at the end of the purchasing process.
That's why President Joe Biden on Thursday announced a broader effort to crack down on what he calls junk fees imposed by ticket companies, banks, airlines, and other industries.
The solution is what is called all-in pricing.
The announcement comes as Ticketmaster, SeatGeek, and Airbnb this week committed to disclosing total prices up front. And according to the White House, concert giant Live Nation, which owns Ticketmaster, will commit to all-in upfront pricing in September. More entities could follow suit after Biden hosted a meeting at the White House with an array of firms, including Ticketmaster, SeatGeek, Airbnb, and a small venue in Des Moines, Iowa.
This is a win for consumers, in my view, and proof that our crackdown on junk fees has real momentum. But there's more to do.
Biden has
I need that to get as much attention as possible, and I need it to be Biden specifically associated with this move. I need Biden, Biden, Biden. His name needs to be all over this. When SeatGeek is screaming and crying about this, when fucking Ticketmaster's screaming and crying about this, I need all of it to be just, Biden needs to be written all over it.
Called on Congress to pass legislation that mandates upfront all-in pricing for all ticket sellers, bans surprise resort fees charged by hotels, eliminates early termination fees charged by cable, internet, and cell phone companies, and bans family seating fees on airlines. But the battle continues. The Transportation Department last year...
Banning family seating fees on airlines. Yeah, like, dude, Biden is actively doing shit that drops prices. Like, yeah.
Asked U.S. airlines.
Also, for those that don't know, this is not really related to Biden. It's more of just a consequence of the economics working the way economics do. You know how fast food has gotten absurdly overpriced, particularly since the start of COVID, but it's been happening for a while, but it really escalated since then? Because of that, a lot of people have simply stopped buying fast food. I know I have, and I'm not the only one. The amount of fast food purchases has dropped substantially due to the insane price increases. And because of that, McDonald's and Wendy's and a few other places, they're not able to get away with these high prices anymore. It's actually harming their bottom line. And in response, they are dropping their prices. They're already starting at 10 cent drop, which drops it into a lower dollar threshold at least, but it's gonna continue to drop. The only way you fight the inflation of prices on a given commodity is for the demand of that commodity to drop substantially lower than the ability to supply it. Once it gets to be an actual waste for McDonald's to continue supplying this commodity at the price that they are offering it at because there's so low demand for it at that price, they are forced to drop the price. That is how you fight inflation. That is how inflation disappears. It doesn't really go away, but it disappears in the mind of the average American, is companies are forced to drop prices back down because people stop buying products that are expensive and overpriced the more overpriced they get. There is a point where there's just a certain amount of people that stop buying and they're forced to level things back out and get the price to somewhere where a good amount of people are still willing to pay. It's not so much boycotting as people just cannot afford that thing anymore, and the companies are forced to make it affordable again. It's not a boycott thing, it's a material condition thing. Like when you can't afford something, like for example, iPhones. When the iPhone first came out, it was so overpriced, no one could afford it. You had to be like pretty well off to afford an iPhone, the iPhone 1. And the whole goal of like all cell phone manufacturers from then on for smartphones was to make them as cheap as possible. Because if they want as many people to be able to afford a smartphone as possible. Now that everyone's hooked on smartphones, the idea is they've tried to slowly boil the frog to raising the prices with inflation. But if people stop being able to afford those phones, eventually just because they can't afford them and thus aren't buying them, those prices are going to drop naturally. It's going to happen. That's just how economics works. That's how inflation goes away. And it's what's happening with a lot of things, including fast food right now. And in some ways, Biden is actively forcing companies to cut off junk fees that were already inflating prices.
Whether they would agree to pay at least $100 for delays of at least 3 hours if the airline was at fault. So far, none have agreed. And
Biden cracking down on airlines, too, as a little side to our meat and potatoes? Let's fucking go, dude. Love that. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Like, this is just a massive Biden W, and I hope Biden gets a lot of credit for it. He deserves it. He's been doing a good job. Like, he's had his shortcomings, but there hasn't been enough attention drawn to his successes when he is the only alternative to fascism in this coming election. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, please consider leaving a like. It really helps a lot. Every single thumbs up goes a long way, and it's totally free. Also, please consider commenting down below. It has a similar effect, and it really helps a lot, and I really do appreciate it. Don't forget, you can also follow my social medias, which are all linked down below in the description as well. And if you want to support me financially, please consider doing so by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying some merch to the Streamlabs link down below in the description. And of course, don't forget to follow or to join my fan Discord, which is linked down below in the description as well. There's a link down there. It is easy to find, I hope. It's totally free. It's the main hub of my fan base. We do watch parties, cons, streams, game events, all sorts of cool stuff there. And I also announce all my new uploads and streams too, so make sure you join that if you haven't already. I hope to see you there. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.